In this video, we'll try to solve this problem from Codeforces. Link to this problem is given below in the description box. Now first try to solve this problem all by yourself. And then if you are stuck, you can always go and check out the tutorials. If you are still stuck and are not able to figure out how this code works, then let's try to solve this problem together. Now hopefully you have gone through the problem thoroughly. The first line of input gives us three integers n, m and q. N represents the length of the first string and m represents the length of the second string, and q represents the number of queries that we are going to given later. The next line of input gives us a string which we are going to denote by s. The next line gives us the string we are going to search for, and let's denote it by t. And the next q lines will give us the queries. Now this is the string we are given in this example. Now I have used 0-based indexing on the top and 1-based index in the bottom just to make our life easier. Now let's talk about the second query, 5, 15. So we'll start from 5 and end at 15, and we'll have to find the occurrences of the string t inside this substring that starts at 5 and ends at 15. Now ABA occurs in this substring once, twice and thrice, so 3 is going to be the output for this query. Now that's how it's going to work. Now for solving this problem, we'll have to use something called partial sum array. Let's say I've got an array and these are the elements of this array, 2, 3, 4, 8 and 1. Now underneath this array we are going to construct the partial array for this AR. So I'm going to name it PR. So PR stands for the partial array. Now let's write down the indices. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now how it works is, let's say PR of 4. Now PR of 4 will contain the sum of values from the AR starting from index 0 till the index 4. So the value in this cell is going to be the sum starting from 0 till the index 4. And therefore in this cell the sum is going to be 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 8 plus 1, or 18 in this case. So how are we going to find out the value of this cell? Obviously it's going to be the summation starting at index 0 ending at index 2. So it's going to be 2 plus 3 5 plus 4 9. The same way we can fill out the rest of the array. Now the partial array is going to look something like this. Now what we can do is shift all these elements one step to the right, and therefore the array is going to look something like this. Now therefore the definition of PR of 4 will change. Now PR of 4 will contain all the values starting from 0 till 4 minus 1. Have a look at this cell. Now 17 is basically the summation of all these values, or 9 is the summation of all these values. Then what's the value of PR of 0 going to be? It's going to be 0. So PR of 0 we are going to assign it to 0. Now there is also one thing that you might notice is, let's talk about 9. PR of 3 is basically 9, so PR of 3 we can write it as 9. Now we can find 9 by summing 5 and 4 up, so we can just write here 4 plus 5. Now instead of 4 we can just simply write AR of 2, and instead of 5 we can just write PR of 2. And therefore if we generalize this formula, it looks something like this. PR of I is equal to AR of I minus 1 plus PR of I minus 1. Or we can also add 1 to all of these i's. So it is going to look like something like this. AR of I plus PR of I. Now that was the basic behind partial sum array, and now we'll have to use it to solve our problem. So let's start by taking this block of input. One thing, if you notice here, that this is the constraint for n and m. N is the length of the first string that were given here. Now in the code I will define a const int n, and it will contain the highest value of n, which is in this case 10 raised to the power 3. So I'll just write 1 0 0 0 plus, let's say, just 2 for the safety. Now let's start taking the input. So int n, m and q. So scanf %d, %d and %n, m and then q. Then I need to take two string s and t. Now I'll declare a character array. Let's name it buff and take input from the using this character array. So scanf %s buff, and then assign this buff to s. In this way it's going to consume a lot less time, and I'll have to repeat the same thing for t as well. So I take input for using buff and assign this buff to t. Now I am done taking these 3 lines of input. Next what I'm going to do is create an array, declare an array, and let's name the array OK. Now this OK array is going to tell me whether I found a match or not, given a certain range of index. Now let's start by OK of 0. I have assigned 1 to OK of 0. So what does this mean? All it means is if I start searching from index 0 and end at index 0 plus the size of this second string, which is in this case 3 minus 1, or if I end at index 2. So in this case if I start from 0 and end at index 2, then I'm going to find a match. 1 means I found a match and 0 means I have not found a match. Now if I start at index 0 and end at index 2, the substring is ABA and T is also ABA. So we have the string has matched, and therefore OK of 0 is going to hold 1. It means I found a match which start at index 0 and ends at index 2. Next let's go to OK of 1. It is 0 because we have not found a match. So OK of 1 will start at 1 and end at 1 plus the size of the second array, which is 3 minus 1. So in this case it's going to be 3. So if we start at 1 and end at 3, so this is the substring that we got. Now it's BSC and we are looking for ABA, so they don't match, and therefore 0 is assigned to OK of 1. Now the same way we'll go to the next index, which is 3 in this case, and try to match this string. It is ACA and we're looking for ABA, it doesn't match. So OK at index 2 or OK of 2 is going to be 0. Now that's how this OK array is going to work. We'll start out by checking from index 0, then index 1, then index 2, and then just keep going on. Now what's the last substring that I'll be able to check? Now this is the last substring that I'll be able to check. Now if I use a for loop, then it will start from index 0 and end at index 12, just before 13. So how to find out 12 or how to find out 13? So we can just say the length of this whole array, which is 15 in this case, 15 minus the length of the substring or the string that we are going to match with is 3 plus 1. So it's going to give me 13. So if we'll run a for loop, then it will start from 0 and end at 13 minus 1. So we can generalize this formula but by just saying n is basically the length minus m plus 1. M is the length of the second string. So let's write it down. For int I equals 0, I is less than n minus m plus 1 plus I. And I'm using less than symbol, not equal, less than or equal to symbol. I'm using less than symbol so that it goes up to 13 minus 1 exactly at index 12. So I'll be using an OK array, so I'll have to define it, declare it outside the array. So int OK, and the size is going to be obviously of length n. Now whenever I'll start at any index, I'll assume that I've found the match, and therefore I will use a boolean variable. Let's name it found equals true, and I've assigned true to this found array, to this found variable, because I'm assuming that whenever I start matching, I'll assume that I have found a match. Whenever I'll see that any character is not matching, then I'll just set the found variable to false, and false will refer to the fact that we have not found any match. So let's say at any given time the value of I becomes 5, so this is I, so then we'll have to check this substring. Now for this purpose we'll have to use another for loop, and that for loop is going to actually compare the two strings. It will first check A with this B, then this B with this A, then this A with this D. Now whenever a character doesn't match, let's talk about the first one. A doesn't match with B. Whenever we find there is no match, we'll just set this variable found to false, Now if we use a loop for this purpose, how many times is the for loop going to run? The for loop is going to run for 3 times, because the length of the string that we are trying to match is 3 in this case. So the for loop is going to run for 3 times, so the inner for loop is going to run for m times. So let's write this down in code. So for j equals 0, j is less than m, in this case m is 3 plus j. Now we'll have to match this substring, we'll have to compare this substring with this string t, and therefore we'll check it just by writing if s of I plus j, s is the first string that we are given, is not equal to t of j. So t is basically the second string that we are given. If they do not match, that means the strings are not the same, and therefore we'll make the found variable false. The found variable is going to store whether we have found a match or not, and therefore I'm just going to store this found variable inside OK of I. Now in our case, the value of I was 5, and therefore would match this substring to this string we're given, and therefore, and as you can see, B and A doesn't match, and therefore the value of found will be false. And we can also do one thing: whenever we will find that a value doesn't match, a character doesn't match with another one, we can just simply make found equals false and then break, because there is no need to check the other characters because we have already found a difference. Now we'll have to make a partial sum array out of this OK array, and therefore I'll just declare another variable, another array, and name it PR. PR stands for partial array, partial sum array. Now as I've earlier seen that the zeroth index, at the zeroth index of the partial sub array PR of 0, the value is always going to be 0. And we have also seen earlier how to calculate the I plus 1th element. So in this case, the name of our array is OK, so it's going to be OK of I in this case. So we'll just write PR of I plus 1 equals PR of I plus OK of I. Now let's have a look at the stats. Whenever I find a match at a certain index, the next index of the value in the next index of the partial sum array is incremented. I found a match here, and therefore value of the next partial sum array is incremented by 1. So what does PR of 5 actually means here? It means that if I start searching from 0 and end at index 4, then I'm going to end up getting 2 matches. Ending at index 4 means starting from the index 4, so this is the last substring that I'm going to match. So if somebody says what is the minimum number of times that ABA occurs inside this range 1 to 7, and he is using 1 base index, then your result should be PR of 5, because PR of 5, it will start from 0th index and will end searching at the 4th index. So if it searches at index 4, then this is going to be the last substring that it's going to search. So basically it's ending at the index 7 from the 1 base indexing perspective. Now the question is, if the last index is 7, then how to go for PR of 5? Let's say R is a variable that denotes the value 7. Now I can go from 7 to 5 just by simply using this formula. R is equal to R minus M plus 1, just like before. So in this case R is 7, minus M is the length of the array, which is 3 in this case, plus 1. So it is going to give me 5. And now if I calculate PR of 5, it will give me the result starting from the 0th index till the 4th index. Now if I search starting from 0th index, that means this is the last substring that I'm going to search for. So basically I'm searching until the 7th or until the 6th index or until the 7th index from the 1 base perspective. So I can also write it here, also I can write it something like this: 1 till the 7th index based on 1 base perspective or 1 base indexing. Now let's try to take these inputs as query. So for that I'm going to need a for loop. 0 is less than 3 in this case. In this case it's going to be q plus I. Let's say I have 2 variables, int L and R. So I'm just going to take input L and R as input. Now we'll have to convert r or write to r equals r minus m plus 1. We have just seen why we need to convert this r. Now let's talk about this query, 5 and 15. So this is L and this one is R. Now R is going to be 15 minus 3 plus 1. What was the formula? It was like R minus M plus 1. So in this case it's going to be 13. Now PR of 13. So PR of 13, it means if I start from 0 and end at the index 12, or if I end at index 12, so if I end at index 12, so this is the index, because in this case we are going to talk about the zero base index. So if we end at index 12, then this is the last string we are going to check. So basically from one's base perspective, we are checking from 1 till the 15th index. Okay, so we can say we are checking from 1 to 15, and the reason I've written 1 to 15 here is because just I wanted to show you that we are asked to check starting from 5 till 15 when it comes to one base perspective, and although we are starting from 1, we have actually made our search until the 15 index when it comes to one base indexing. Now this line is not important, we are actually more interested in this line. So now if we look at the diagram, so we start from 12, we start from 0 and end at 12. So this is the last string that we are going to check. But the problem is we just want to start from 5 and end at 15. So that means we just want to start from this index, because 5 means in this case 5 is one base index. So if I decrement 5, so it's going to be 4 in this case. So I need to start from this index actually. So that means we are going to check in this manner. We'll start from 4, index 4, and check if it matches or not. Then maybe we'll check this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, this one, this one, this one, and the last string that we're going to check is this one. Now we're going to start searching from this index, this 4th index. So what was the last index that we made our search on? So obviously this is the last substring that we were searching inside, and the index that it started from was 3, and therefore it means that we will have to deduct all the searches made starting from 0 till index 3. Now we have seen earlier that PR of 3 holds the searches starting from index 0 till index 12. So that means PR of 4 is actually going to hold all the searches made starting from 0 till index 3. So we'll just have to deduct PR of 4 from this PR of 13. So that's going to be our answer. Now we have seen earlier how to find out PR of 13 or the value 13 from R. Now how can we find out 4 from L? Now the value of L was actually 5. So if we just decrement L, then we'll end up getting this value 4. So that means we'll just have to decrement L. So we'll just decrement L, and now we just need to print out the difference. So printf %d new line PR of right minus PR of left. Now there is just one tiny condition that we need to take care of, and that is maybe you're given an input like this, let's say 11 and 12. So you will have to check whether or not inside this substring 11 and 12 you have got this substring ABA. Now the length of ABA is 3 and the length of your substring is just 2. So there is no way you are going to find a match for that. So in that case you are going to just print 0. And therefore if length of the substring is less than the length of your given string, so length of the substring is going to be R minus L plus 1 is less than the length of the string you are given, which is M, then you will just simply say printf 0 new line, and we will just continue and we will not execute this part of code. So that was it. We have successfully managed to solve this problem.